Hello everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Apologies for that. Everything looked a bit different and then I was logged out again. So hopefully, as I was logged out at the beginning, I shouldn't get logged out through the live. So hope you're all well. Thanks for joining me. I hope you can hear me. We've got a few of you joining. That's perfect. Hi Sue. Hi Sharon. Hi Jean. Hello Tina. Yay, Tina, we've got the sun today as well. Actually, it's the first hot day we've had, and I've been in all day, and the schools went back today, so that's typical, isn't it? Could have predicted it really. Right, I hope you can all hear me. I do hope you can hear me. I shall just wait for a thumbs up just to check before I continue. No, I haven't left you alone, Sue. No, I've not left you alone, not today. I shall go out later on with Hazel and we'll have a good walk. Although when it's sunny like this, she just lays on the grass. Her back legs splay out like a frog, and her front legs go out and her back legs go out. So she looks like Superman actually, and just lays on the grass. So she's actually not very active outside till very much later on, until it gets cooler. Oh, perfect. Hi, Mum. How are you? You can see me and hear me. Are you in the garden like you thought you might be? Hi, Diana. Loud and clear for you as well. Perfect. Everybody can hear me. Hi, Beverly. Are you all ready to craft along as well? That's great. Right. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I've got no slides to come up for you today. Everything I'm using is available, but possibly in limited stocks on Lisa's website. So what I would say is a lot of the techniques that I'm using today, definitely use what you have in your stash. If I'm using something that you don't have, then I would hold on until the bank holiday sale, which Lisa is doing with Dan Bancroft, because the chances are that what I'm using today, because it's limited numbers, that'll appear in the sale. I would imagine. I don't know. I say I've got no insider knowledge. I don't know what's coming up, but I'm imagining if it's limited stock on the website, the chances are that it will be in the sale, because I know what Lisa was saying, that she needs to be really strict with herself, and Adam and Danny are going to be very strict with her, I think, to clear the warehouse out to make room for all the new goodies that are coming along. So yeah, so but today really is like technique based, and I'm focusing on the Reinkers, so it's something really different for me today. This is quite a messy session. I don't know if you can tell, but the state of my hands, actually they're a little bit cleaner than they were earlier on. I've come up with a couple of different techniques, or I want to show you a couple of different techniques that I find are an easy way to use reinkers other than using them to re-ink your ink pad, basically, because I'm not necessarily a messy crafter, and I know a lot of you are, a lot of you aren't. So those who are messy crafters, I can definitely learn from you. Those who aren't messy crafters but have the re-inkers and want to find a different way to use them, what I'm going to show you today, I think, is really, really achievable. It's not too complicated, not too messy, and you get sort of really nice results along the way. As I say, I think what I'm going to show you today is perhaps slightly different to what Paola may show you with the reinkers, and what Lisa may have shown you with the reinkers. So between the three of us, and then what other design team members do as well, you know, there should be lots of different techniques and different ways to actually get you using your reinkers. Now, the ones that I'm using today are the interference. I have both sets of the interference reinkers, and I've just picked out my favorite colors. Another thing that is worth saying, actually, the reinkers were pick of the week I can't remember if it was last week or the week after, but they were definitely recently, and the prices have still held, so they are actually half price at the moment. And what I've done this morning, I've actually ordered myself the 2 sets of blending ink Reinkers, because I had set 1, so I've ordered myself set 2 and set 3 of the matte blending ink Reinkers. That's a mouthful. I'm sure I said that right. So yeah, because they're half price. So basically I've got all of the sets now for half the price than what they would be, which is great. So if you do need them, if you do want them, they have held their sort of half price value. So now is a good time to get them. Also, what I want to show you for those who haven't used them before, those who are new to us, and perhaps just as a little reminder, how they are delivered to you. Now, I have oh, what's that? Mum, really old-fashioned name. Oh, it's not at all. What would you have wanted to have been called, Mum, when you was little? I don't think I've ever asked you that, have I? You've always said you thought you had an old-fashioned name. Okay, back on topic. So I keep Lisa's Reinkers in this storage case that we have here. So I'll show you that. I have some of the explosion powders here as well, and the Reinkers that I do have, I have here. So they all come. This is like, you can't see that on here. It's foam molded with the little holes to put the bottles into. So they come to you like this. So they come to you with a white cap on. Let me just show you. Yeah. So they come to you with the white cap on. They come sealed with the foil seal there, and they also come to you with a dropper. So you can see that here. So they come to you with the white dropper and the black lid. So the whole thing will be bundled to you together like, oh dear me. It's a good start, isn't it? They'll come bundled to you like this. So this just protects and prevents leaking in transit. So before you get to the stage of breaking the seal and putting the dropper on, what I would suggest is that you shake this. Now, storage wise, I've been storing mine upright because they are in the case, and the way that I've sat the case on the shelf is literally like this. Now, I think what I might do from now on, I might actually stand my case up on end, so that means all the bottles on the inside are actually going to be sitting like this. And I think the benefit of that will be that all the sediment and everything and the mica that floats within the reinker does settle over time, regardless of how you store them. Now, if you store them upright, then obviously everything is going to settle at the bottom here. And if you can just see, you can see the reinker here is filled to the top. Let me put it onto the other camera. There we go. So yeah, we have the inker refilled, filled to the top here, but you can see this sediment at the bottom, which is the same for the matte blending inks as well as the interference. Obviously, what is going to settle is going to be something slightly different. But when they are set upright like this, and obviously sets at the bottom, and there's an awful lot of work in shaking the bottle to actually get this sediment or the pigment and the mica sort of suspended. I think if you were to lay your bottles down this way, as Lisa suggests, everything that settles is going to be along the side of the bottle. So I think it actually makes it a lot easier to shake and resuspend everything. Now, this one hasn't been opened yet. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to shake this and keep quiet. What you can hear, obviously, is the liquid jingling about, which sloshing about, which is fine. But then this one that I've already opened and resuspended, I'll just do the same again. Can you hear that ball bearing in there? And it's that you need to get reactivated in the unopened ones, and that's what will help you resuspend all the mica and all the pigment in there. So what you need to do is just keep shaking this. Apologies if that's making you dizzy. I'll just do it offside. You will eventually, it takes a little while, but just keep shaking these and you will eventually start hearing and feeling that ball bearing on the inside and actually get that moving. So that is the first thing to do. Now my Apple Watch has loved me this morning because I've spent most of the morning shaking out a good 7 or 8 bottles. So I think my watch thinks my steps are up, which is great. So what you then do, you can then open your reinker. Now you do this, I just take a knife. This isn't as sharp as it looks, it's quite blunt. So I'm just going to take off the metal seal. We'll say it's the foil seal there. You just do that really carefully and then you can discard that. Now it is a messy job, it really is. But then what you can do, you then take your plastic, let me move this here, there we are. You then take your plastic nozzle there and it takes a little bit of force. Actually, before I do that, what you'll see is 2 or 3 ridges on this. There we are, on the plastic nozzle there. Basically, what you want to do is push this nozzle so it clicks past these 2 ridges and settles on this upper rim here. So it takes a little bit of force, but do it against the desk and you'll be absolutely fine. And you'll actually hear that click into place. And then you know that that is in place when there's no gap between the top of the bottle and this sort of this sealed disc that sits on top of the dropper. Then you're good to go. Don't need the lid. I haven't found a use for the lid sort of since, so that can be discarded. And then you just put your black dropper lid on and then you're away to go. So hopefully that's a nice reminder of how to actually get started with the reinkers. Now there's loads of different techniques and I think I'll just get straight into it for you now. I've had a good old play this morning. So pumpkin spice, so I've got all sorts of different colours. I've picked out sort of pinks and blues and yellows, so I'll try and go through a little bit of all sorts with you today. Now this is working onto a piece of MDF. Now Lisa used to cut MDF laser shapes and used to send them out in packages just like this, didn't she? So I'm just reading Trees is a pretty name. My cousin Ray would have been called. I didn't know that, Mum. Ray would have called you Trees because they're green. Oh, there we are. You learn something new every day, don't you? Lovely to have you here. Actually, there's a good few of you with us now. Okay, so we're back onto the basically this is mixed media. So this is about as mixed media crafting as I get. So what you can see here, it's an MDF shape, the same as I have here. So I have a heart. This one here, I've used the reinkers on, and I've also stenciled onto the top of this as well. So it just proves that you know, there's all sorts of different techniques, and this makes a real sort of vintage looking. So this would be lovely if you were to do this for Christmas or with different ideas on it actually. So say there'll be no sort of made card, you know, fully made cards for you today, but hopefully I can give you lots of ideas, lots of different techniques. So what my first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to colour tint some of the Pearl Flash paste. Now I'm using this because it's the only paste that I have. But if you had just plain white paste, something that needs a bit of colour, or you want to give this a go and you only have the white paste, then you know this is a good way to actually colour tint that. So I'm going to take some of that paste out. This is Lisa's Flash paste, and I'm using the Gilded Pearl. There is I think there is a more neutral one as well. I don't think I have that. So I'm going to take some of that paste out and just put that onto my messy mat there. Now this does actually have a lovely sheen to it anyway. And you can see that already. And when I tilt this, you can see that it's also got the sheen there. But if you wanted to give that an extra little bit of colour, then you can absolutely do that with one of the Reinkers. So I'm going to, oh dear me, so give that another quick mix. Now the ball bearings in all of these are actually, I've loosened up so they are ready to go. I'm using Regal Grey here, so I'm just experimenting with colour now. What I used here was I think it was pink champagne, if I remember right. So what I'm going to do is just put a drop or two of the Reinkers into that paste and just mix that up like so. Now this is Regal Grey, so you do have the grey there, but you also have that purple coming through. And I'm going to take a paintbrush, there's one of Lisa's paintbrushes, and a little bit of water so we can make this paste go a long way. And I'm just going to use that just to mix up this paste even more and just start painting that onto my heart. Now, because I'm using the paste, then obviously that's a little bit thicker than the, there we are, a little bit thicker than the interference pastes, interference inks. And what I'm going to do also is just add a little bit more colour onto that, so we've got more colour coming through when I actually paint this on. There we go, you can see the difference there now. So I'm going to pick up the paste, which is going to give me that gold look to it as well. And I think I'm not blending it particularly well because I like to have that sort of striation going and that mix of colour onto the heart. So you can see how that is, it is actually covering that really well. Now if you were to use a lighter base or colour these MDF shapes in white first, then obviously you get a completely different colour. Now I'm going to pick up that paste. I'm using like a silicone spreader here, so I can actually spread that paste on here now and actually create myself a little bit of texture. And you can see how that mixes the colour, and you basically just sort of spread it like butter and you just have you play. That's what it is. You play until you've got that finish on there that you like and a finish that you think you can work with. Now I want to have that quite smooth because I'm going to leave that to dry and then I can stencil over the top of it like I have done on this one. So that's one way you can use your Reinkers. As I say, the paste that I'm using has a gold sheen to it anyway. But if you were using just a white paste, like a gesso or something like that, or a modelling paste, modelling clay, then the mica from the interference inks themselves, the Reinkers themselves, would actually give you that sheen. So I'm going to try and clear up as I go along. Now the other thing you can do is actually work onto MDF, and this is purely the Reinkers directly onto the wood of the MDF. I think it might even be plywood actually. It's something that I've just used earlier on. So you can actually take your Reinkers and you can add a little bit of water. Now because the inks themselves are water reactive, you can absolutely mix these with water to make them spread. And as you can see here, I'm just colouring straight onto this wooden shape, as again it's just a shape that I had sitting in my stash, something that I actually engrave on for other projects that I do. can just add a little bit of water. Now you can absolutely mix colours as well. I'm just using the one colour, and this sits really nicely onto that MDF shape there, or the wooden shape that we have there. And as that dries, you will see the sheen from the mica coming through. Now this side, and this is pink champagne, this one's crushed velvet, so you can see a slight difference in colour. I'm just going to swap camera again. Hopefully you can just pick up that mica is coming through, so that's got a lovely sheen on there. So what would have been a straightforward just sort of matte wooden finish does have this lovely sheen on there, and it's almost like a wood stained colour because you still see the grain of the wood through there. Actually, if I show you this side, the one that I've just done, you can see the mica coming through there. That's, again, that's a really lovely way to be able to use that. Now what you can do, because you only put a really thin layer on this dries really quick. So this one will take a little bit longer to dry because you have the pastes on there, but not too much longer. If you put this on a windowsill, especially on these lovely warm sunny days, that will dry in no time, and then you'll be able to stencil onto it like I have done there. But I'll stencil onto this one now just to prove that you can stencil on top of these Reinkers, even if you're using a non-conventional surface actually. So what I'm going to do, bear with me, I'm going to just stencil this quickly. It's the Spring Anemone. This is one of my favourites actually. I've not used it in a long while, but I thought what would be in, oh, let's move it there we go. This is the Spring Anemone, and I think what would be interesting is to actually show you how you can actually use your Ultimate, you can use your layman stencils and stencil onto something other than card. I only ever stencil onto card with you, don't I? Oh, now that's me being clumsy. I'm going to move that away. I think that's why I don't do mixed media, to be honest, because I haven't got the patience. And I'm so clumsy, I never let things dry before I touch them. Anyway, so let's stencil onto the MDF shape, or the wooden shape. So I'm just going to line up the shape underneath the stencils first, so as I know where I'm going with them. We can leave that there. Okay, so it's very much the same way as I would stencil with cardstock, you know, just that I'm using something slightly different underneath. And it's possible, we've all got these MDF shapes in our stash, haven't we, that we've collected or we've used from before. So I'm also using the interference ink, so I'm using Summer Garden and Pink Champagne again, and I'm just using my sponges, and I'm just going to stencil really quickly. I'm going to do this really quickly, just to show you the effect that this can give. And this gives a whole different effect to stenciling on card. As I say, the one that I've done here has a very vintage look to it, which I think is lovely. This one is going to look very different again. Now I'm using Pink Champagne interference ink over the top of the, oh, that's hazel. So I think I might need to use a different colour. So I'm just going to get my Opal Blush this time round, I think, because the Pink Champagne that I actually stained the wooden shape with there is quite intense, so I'm not seeing the ink come through, but you only know this when you give this a go. So let me just show you there. There's a slight shadow of it there, as you can see. That doesn't matter. What we'll do, we'll just swap colour. So I'm going to come in with Opal Blush, which still has a pink hue behind it, but it'll also give us that lilac-y look in the background. You can actually see straight away. Yep, Hazel agrees as well. There we go. There we are. You can see how this has really sort of come to life now. Now I'm using the interference inks on top of the interference Reinkers, which I think works so well. And also going to come in with a little bit of woodland moss, just to give a different finish on some of the leaves there. And again, it just shows you that you can use different inks to get your different finishes. You can layer them. Again, I'm just doing this really roughly just to get through this pretty quick, but I think there's time and a place for blending, you know, and getting lovely blends and lovely smooth blends. But I think sometimes the quicker that you blend something and you spend less time on it, you can get a really vintage look, which I think is really, really nice. It's something, that vintage sort of shabby chic look can only be done when you're not thinking about it too much, and you just want to, you know, you just get through it really quick. As I say, I'm just using 3 colours. I'm not giving it a huge amount of thought whatsoever, because obviously I want to get through this. We'll come back in with the Opal Blush. Now, we could have chosen a different colour, and obviously it depends on the background colour, but I've gone with quite a strong colour in the background. And as you can see, I'm still able to stencil over the top and get a fabulous effect. So that's coming together really nicely, don't you think? And it's just something a little bit different, isn't it? It might be a really nice idea for you to think about for Christmas. You can personalise sort of little Christmas decorations, or you can make these plaques to go on the front of a Christmas card, but make them detachable. So with a piece of ribbon, so people can then hang them on the trees or something like that. So, but that's a really unusual idea. So it's not something that you would necessarily think of. And when you use your Ultimate with your layering stencils, again, it's something we usually go straight to our cardstock, don't we? But just give some, you know, something like this another go. And that really does have the sheen from the interference inks on there as well. But that's yeah, that's just a really nice finish. So that's one way to use your Reinkers, to give you your background. Okay, so what the colours you using? The colours that I used in this one, Vicky, was it? So this one, the background is the Reinker Pink Champagne, and what I've just stenciled with is Summer Garden Shimmer, Opal Blush, which is the flower, and Woodland Moss. So some of the foliage is in the shimmer, and some of the foliage is in the matte blending, and then the flowers are with the opal shimmer. Now the difference with this one is that I just swapped, and the flower is coloured with the pink champagne, but the background is created with the pink champagne Reinker and the gilded pearl crystal flash paste. So you can see now, as that one's drying, it's got a really nice look to it as well, and you'll be able to stencil on that one exactly the same as I have done there. But you do need to allow that paste to dry a little bit. Now I'm going to do my very best to keep tidy here. There's all sorts going on off camera. Now another way that we can do this is to actually create ourselves a background which we can then emboss. So I've used the fundamental dies to die cut my oval here. So it's fundamental dies just to give myself a piece of canvas, no, something to work on. And I'm actually using multimedia cardstock now. So this is like watercolor cardstock, something that can take a little bit more sort of moisture from the media that you're using. And I'm going to take the cherry bomb this time, and we're just going to create a background here. I'm just going to give this another quick mix and clean off my paintbrush. Now, I did have to go out and get myself some kitchen towel this morning, so it's quite a useful thing to have. So we have the cherry bomb here. I've given that a good mix. Gorgeous colour, this one. I love this. Now, it doesn't look like I'm using very much here, so let me just move that down and move that across. I'm really not using very much at all, but when I spray this with water, for one, you can see just how much that the colour then spreads, and also you can see the mix of the mica and the different colours in there come out as well. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm just picking up with the brush, and I'm just going to go backwards and forwards and just spread that onto the cardstock like that, so we get a really lovely mix. And then just before I move that away, what did I do with, yes, now when I made this before, when I covered this plaque earlier on, when I covered this plaque, I used too much paste, and it didn't all go on there, so I mopped the rest of it up and put it onto the cardstock. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit more paste here, just so as I can recreate the look that I got on here. Because obviously we don't want to waste too much of our media, do we? So again, what we can do, we can take our paste and we can mix it with our interference inks, and we can just spread that onto our cardstock also. Now this is going to give what you're spreading a little bit more texture, because you've got the paste going on there as well. You can also use, let me just dampen that off a little bit. You can also use your spreader. So, apologies, I'm going backwards and forwards here. Say earlier on I did use too much paste, which means now I'm being a little bit more conservative. So I'm not used to this mixed media. There we go. So what I've done, I've just taken more paste here, and instead of using a brush this time, I'm mixing what I've got left of the interference ink. You can put more down if you wanted to make that more intense. Actually, yeah, let's do that, because I usually go quite pale. Let's go a lot more intense. This is a stunning colour. And we can mix that with our paste. So we've actually got some texture going on here. And then what we can do, instead of using our brush, we can actually use our spreader to spread that onto our cardstock as well. And this is the beauty of using a thicker cardstock. You can see that spread on there, but what it does, it gives you again some texture onto there. Let me just show you that. Look how pretty that is. Gives you the texture on there. You can see the pearl coming through from the shimmer paste, but also it's mixing with that lovely interference ink as well. So we have an awful lot going on. Now again, what we need to do is just allow that to dry. Now, excuse me, just while I clear up in between. I'll do my best to do this as quickly as I can. Now this is where your messy mat really does come into its own. So what we need to do is just allow that to dry. Now, this morning I just sat that on my windowsill, which has the sun shining through, and it dried in absolutely no time at all. So I'm going to give this a quick blast with the heat tool, actually, just so as I can work with that for you. And you can see as I move that around, the sheen that is given
And again, if you were using like a gesso or a stencil paste that doesn't have any sheen or shimmer to it, the interference ink will actually give you that mica into that. Alternatively, you can use the Reinkers for the matte blending, and they will do exactly the same job. They will colour tin anything, but obviously you just won't get that mica into that. So it really does depend on what you've got available. So I think that might be just dry enough. It dries quite quick actually. You don't affect the finish by putting the heat gun onto that at all. It just lets it dry a bit quicker. I mean, I think normally you would allow that to dry naturally because you'd be getting on with something else. Now I'm just going to take an embossing folder now. This is what the year in bloom. This is January, so this has got the crocus, and this is a stunning folder. Actually, it's got a beautiful all over pattern. It reminds me of a really opulent wallpaper. So I'm just going to take my piece and line that up in there, and I am actually picking where I want this to be embossed. I'm being a bit fussy on this one because there's like a central crocus feature there which I really want to get in the center, so I'm just going to emboss that. Now again, the advantage of using something with the mica and even the gold pearl in this, it's really going to highlight all of the relief when you emboss that. And let me just turn that over, showing you that is embossed. But that just looks so pretty, and that's taken on almost like a coral pink sort of look there. Now what you can do is take bear with me, I'll just get my ink out. You can take another ink pad. I'm using tone on tone actually here, so I'm going to use the Cherry Bomb interference pad. You can highlight the embossing. You can use any colour, and black is a really popular colour to do this technique with, but I do like this tone on tone, and because you have the two-tone of the interference, I think that's really nice. So what I can see here are real purples coming through. It looks quite orange. Let me just turn. Yeah, look at, if I can just turn that, I can see real purples coming through, and that just really is really highlighted all of that extra detail. It's a shame I can't see that, because all of that raised detail actually that I can see is a real cherry red and purple. It looks so different to it on the camera there. That's sort of the best that I can show you really. And I haven't done it all the way down, so I've got that like graduation of colour. It's actually really, really stunning. It's beautiful, and you'd allow that to dry, and that gives you a very different look. Now actually you can see the difference in the two colours there. So, it's a shame I can't show you that colour. That is the most stunning pinky purple colour. It really is. And then you've got all that gold from the paste in the background. If you have these colours at home, then give it a go, because to see it with your own eyes, I think is just the best thing. And then what you can do, you can just use that as a background. You can then create any card that you want from this. I've just got a little bit of cardstock there with a little bit of ribbon, so I can pop that on there, and I can just put a black sentiment over the top of that, and I think that would be a really simple, super simple card. But honestly, the colours that you get on there, if you've got the colours at home, if that is Cherry Bomb, give it a go. Even if you don't use the Reinker, emboss something and then just go over the top with the Cherry Bomb interference pad. Honestly, you'll be amazed at the colour. You really will. It's such a shame I can't show you that. But that is another lovely technique for you to be able to do. Now, another way we can do this, and again, I'm going to be using another Year in Bloom embossing folder. This time, March. in the daffodils. And I've also used the fundamentals again. I've used the squashed ovals, and I'm actually using the Interference Reinkers as a paint. And again, you can just about see there, but you can't see the intensity of the colour. So I really do urge you to give this a go at home. But what I've done, I've used my fundamentals to die cut a piece of watercolour cardstock again. And I'm going to do essentially some watercolouring. Now, if this sounds a little bit daunting to you, the best way to try this first is to do this on a smaller die cut. I'm just going to clear that background. Okay, so I'm going to, what I've done, I've die cut with my fundamentals, and then I've embossed this with the Year in Bloom, so the March embossing folder, which is the daffodils, which is so lovely. Now this is an A5 folder, as you can see here. If this looks really daunting to watercolor paint for you, you don't need to do the whole amount. So that's why I've gone with the smaller little canvas for you, so it's a lot more manageable. Okay, now these embossing folders don't come with stencils, so we can either emboss onto coloured cardstock, which will impart the colour, then we can colour them the same way as I've done just here with the ink pad technique squished over the top of that. Actually, even the colours in that one, there's so many colours there. You could also put gilding wax over the top of that as well. Yeah, sorry, I'm just going off on a completely different tangent. So that's one way to, or two ways to get colour onto your embossing folders when you don't have layering stencils. You also have this way where you can emboss and then you can go directly into the design with colour. So what I'm going to do, what brush did I use earlier? This is the one. I'm going to use one of these water brushes. Now, I'm no artist, I'm no painter, and no watercolourist for sure, but I've managed to find a way to actually be able to watercolour some things and get quite a nice finish on that. So I'm using Sweet Treat Interference ink, which is a lovely yellow, and oh you see, I'm just too clumsy for mixed media, and I don't like dirty bottles. So now, now I have a yellow label. Oh dearie me. Anyway, never mind. So I have Sweet Treat and I have Summer Garden. So we have a green and a yellow, so standard colours for the daffodils. And I think what I might do, I've got a swatch of these colours. This is what I use for my ink pads. So we have Sweet Treat that we have here, and we have Magic Garden. So you can see those two colours sort of coming together. I'm using a water brush. Now, Lisa did have some of these. Lots of you may have had them. I find these ideal for watercolouring. I find them, this is the best sort of technique, the best tool for me, who isn't an artist. I'm not a watercolourist at all, but I get a really nice finish on this. And then I feel like I've actually got some control. So we have water sitting in the reservoir here. So we can flood our nib by pressing, depending on what brush you have, by pressing the reservoir, and we have our nib flooded. So that gives us enough water to dilute the ink that we're using, so we can see here, and then we can come straight into our flower. Now, when I first come onto the cardstock, we've got an awful lot of colour on the nib, and I want that to be dispersed out. So I'm just going around the outside of where you want the colour to be. And then I'm going to bring more water into the nib, as you can see here, and diluting out some of that colour. And then I can start washing out the colour that I've put onto the cardstock. And you can see now, as I'm colouring, the colour that I'm using is a lot more water-based, which is why it gets this name, the watercolour technique. And because I'm using a watercolour cardstock, it's built to take all this extra water from there, so it doesn't curl, it doesn't pill, it gives you the chance to actually work. So you can see here that I have that ring of colour around the outside, so now I can go in and start blending that in. I've still got an awful lot of water on my nib from the reservoir here, and I can just pick up extra colour and just start blending that out. Now in between these petals here, you can see that this petal is sitting behind these two, so you would have a darker area there, so that would be your cue to add more colour to that area there, and the same here. So you work with the embossing. It gives you the clues as to where to add the colour to give you that dimension on the flower. Now I'm just moving back down to this flower here, and I'm going to do exactly the same, and all you can see really, I'm just colouring in the same way as you would with colouring pencils. I'm just doing it with a brush instead, but there's just something about using one of these water brushes that means I have more control. So that's, by moving on to this flower, it's given this flower a chance to dry, so then I can just add a little bit more water and just start blending out those lines, which is easy done. Now before I continue, I want to have the centre of this flower coloured, but I want to do that a lot paler than the rest of it, and at this stage I have a lot of water on my nib and not much colour, so that gives me a chance to come into the centre of the flower just to impart that little bit of colour, but not too much. Okay, so then you can see how you can start building up that colour on these flowers. And I've done it, that's exactly what I've done here. Now because I'm working with interference, as this particular ink dries, then obviously all the mica is coming to the fore and you're getting that colour change, which you can see here. So we've got that slightly peach look here. These sections here which appear darker on the camera are actually mica, so I've got a really lovely sheen from those, which you can just about tell from there. You can do this technique in exactly the same way with the matte blending ink. Obviously you just won't have the mica. So now I'm just coming in with the green, and again it really is just as simple as just following where those leaves are, even if you don't want to do the shading. Just pick up the ink and just follow where the leaves are and the stems, and basically you're watercolouring. Now I find that doing it this way, you don't need to be so precise. You have that real sort of mixed media look, and once the ink has dried, you've got a lovely, lovely technique and lovely, lovely finish. Now I won't continue with that now because I've got other things I want to show you, but you can see just how easy, how quick and easy that is just to put that colour down like that, you see. And again, you can add that little bit of shade in, just, yep, Hazel agrees. Now I've got the interference ink here, so on that green I have some of that blue coming through as well, which is really lovely. Now you can see actually in the background here I've got a little bit of texture. That's where I just stamped some of the text stamp onto the embossing folder before I ran it through the machine, and there is a video, actually a separate video on that I've done. I think it's called some how to letterpress with an embossing folder. So that's another technique that you can look, but it just gives a little bit of texture in the background there, and you can see if you carry on working with that and sort of work through, that gives you a really nice watercolor technique. And a really nice way to use your Reinkers there. And these are quite manageable ways, I think, to work with the Reinkers. I think there are some techniques which I find some people have got them down and that, you know, they're doing absolutely perfectly, and I watch those videos and I think I could do that, and then I give it a go, and then I end up in a bit of a pickle. So I think these techniques that I'm today are really achievable and really manageable. That's sort of what my aim of today in giving you these different techniques was. I just wanted to make something manageable for you. Now, again, this card here, I've again created with Reinkers, and it was created from backgrounds like this. Now, if you wanted to create your own backgrounds with different looks, but you struggle using your blending tools like this, your sponges, and maybe brushes like this, what I'm going to show you next, again, is another really achievable way to actually start creating backgrounds that you can die cut into. So you can see here, I've actually used some die cuts, and this flower here, again, these are available on limited supply on Lisa's website. So this is the Builder flower, which I think Mary made a fabulous card with this the other day, which is what made me search out my set, actually, to be honest. And also the shabby foliage that I've used here, you can see that I've die cut them here, again, a limited stock, so I have a feeling they may well be in the sale. So don't hold me to that, I really don't know, but I know Lisa does need to make space for loads and loads of lovely new things that are coming in. So this technique where we can create a really lovely background is something that perhaps many of you would have already done before. It's my first go doing this, to be honest, and it's the shaving foam method. Now, I had to go out and buy shaving foam this morning because who knew the lads in the house here use a gel, which is blue, which I've wondered what was smeared all around the bathroom when I go and clean it. So obviously they don't use shaving cream anymore, they use a shaving gel. So I had to go out and buy a shaving gel, a really cheap one, from the cheap shop here, or a pound shop. Well, it's not a pound shop here, we have euros, Euro shop. So yeah, this is what I want to show. This is the first time that I've actually done this, and this is a really nice way to create backgrounds. And I think it's it looks messy, but it's not. You can get away with using Lisa's super smooth cardstock actually on this. Actually, let me show you just there. You can see the sheen on this, even though this has been created from the shaving foam. Now, I have a feeling you can keep this for a good while, and I've went overboard on the foam here. So I'm going to do this again and start from scratch. Now, I've managed to get these little roasting tins as well, again, from the same shop. It just saves on mess. You can do this straight onto messy mat as well, I'm sure, but I find it a lot easier to sort of put it into one of these, or even one of the little plastic ones that you have your Chinese from. I think anything would work, like ice cream lids, or even if you cut down a cereal packet and use, because this isn't actually too wet. So this is just a normal shaving foam, and I'm not going to use so much this time. Oh. I'm just going to put that in there like that. I had to shake this up a lot as well this morning, so I think my steps are definitely going to be up on my watch today. So I've used a lot less, so I'm just going to spread this out this time. There we go, a lot less. Oh, it smells lovely too. You don't need it to be super thick, I don't think. Not from what I gathered today anyway. So I've just spread this out so I've got a nice area to work on. Again, I'm using one of these silicone spreaders, mainly because it's so much easier to clean. The colours that I've used here and on that other tray are Summer Garden and Opal Blush. My two favourite colours. They work really nicely together. So I've used Summer Garden and Opal Blush. That was what I used before, and to create this lovely sort of bluey green colour. So I think I might go something a little bit different this time. I'm going to go with Mermaid Lagoon and got Regal Grey, Cherry Bomb, and Peacock Tails. Shall I do the... This would be quite nice. It'd be similar colours to what I've done before, actually, but similar bit different. I think that will work, won't it? It'd be nice to use a couple of different colours in here. So we've got Mermaid Lagoon, which I think is more of a teal, and then we've got Peacock Tails. So there's a couple of different ways you can be really gentle with this to get a really subtle colour, which is what I'll do to start with, because you can always go in and add more colour. Now hopefully these aren't too similar in colour, so I'm going to add some drops like this, and then need to find my stick. I have a skewer stick, so it really is a case of raiding the cupboards actually and seeing what you've got to use. A little toothpick would work, and then you can just mix the inks like so. Now let me leave that there, and then you can pick up. So I'm using Lisa Super Smooth here just to prove to you that you don't necessarily need to use a heavier watercolour cardstock, which you can though. I mean, that will work. And I'm just going to set that onto the top and just sort of push that in a little bit. Then pick that up, and yes, it picks up all the shaving foam with it. But what you then do, you get your spatula. You can use a piece of paper towel as well, but I like the spatula. It sort of collects all the ink and scrape away the shaving foam. So you've got the shaving foam there, and then you can put that straight back in to your tray there. And what that does, right, hang on a second. Now this is going everywhere. Right, and if I pick that up and show you, just by scraping that away, that has given you the most lovely organic background that sits in there onto the cardstock, and you can see all the shimmer. Actually, those two colours do work really nicely, don't they? So that gives you that marble colour. Now that in itself, I think, is gorgeous. You can just leave that as it is, and then you can just take another piece of cardstock and go straight back into your tray. But you, just because you're putting that into the foam, you are not losing any of the beauty of the Reinkers there. And the beauty of this as well, it's going to give you a different look every single time. And actually seeing those side by side there, you can just see those colours, how they mix, or how different they look actually. And this gives you a lovely, lovely background. You can either stamp on this, you can just put a sentiment on it, you can emboss it. It just gives you so many different options. It's a lovely background for sets like this, the Tattered Layers set, where you have the panel. And I've actually used the panel there to actually add the colour onto, and then earlier on I managed to die cut the design from the, okay, so we have the tattered, it's the Lazy Daisy panel actually. Again, this is limited stock on the website, and there are, I think there are 3 or 4 others in this style of die. But creating a background like this for this sort of panel is just perfect. Again, you would only need a straightforward sentiment on there to stamp onto, and that will give you a really lovely card. Now you can go in and add more colour. So I'm just going to leave that one like that actually, because, oh no, I've got pink all over it now. Bear with me, let's clean my fingers a little bit. I'm not good at this mixed media lark, really. Actually, I'm going to leave that on because I like the way that that's come out. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to come in with another piece of cardstock, and I'm going to pick up the colour the same way as I did before. So we have that sort of nice background. Again, each time you do this, it's going to be different. So I'm going to take away that foam. Now this one looks like it's seagulls. It's still got the mica from the interference there, particularly in the areas where the ink is heaviest. But now what I can do with those same two colours, I can add a little bit more colour, you know, and I can really sort of go to town on that. And you can find a way to actually mix these. Well, you can actually mix these a lot more. So if you want a stronger background, or this is going to be your, let's bring in some more of the foam. Okay, maybe I should use a spreader. So you can make whole, you know, whole sets of backgrounds. You can see how here actually just using the spreader, that mixes that even better. You can now go ahead and create like coordinating pieces of cardstock. And pick this up, and you have a completely different look because you've got different finish on the foam. Again, you can take that foam away. Now this is more of a solid colour foam, so it's giving us a completely different look. It's a lot more marbled look onto the cardstock. Okay. Again, so this would be ideal to die cut from, I would say, because you've got an awful lot more sort of standard colour there. What you can do, you can also go back in, so you can layer your colours. You could add a second colour actually into your foam and layer that onto the cardstock. So that will be a lovely background to die cut into, and you still have the mica from the interference ink. Now another way we can use this foam here. Now you have an awful lot of foam obviously that we've created. Do we have another piece of cardstock? No, we don't. Let me use this one. Now what we can do, you can either go onto a clean piece of cardstock, or we can use one of the backgrounds that we've created. We can then come in with a stencil. This is the crumpled netting stencil, and we can place that anywhere on our piece and get one of our foam pads, and we can use this foam. We can pick up different areas, and we can use our foam pads to actually go through the stencil. Now we can pick up different areas, and we can build the colour with some of the darker foam. And let's show you that look that we've got here. So that's a different way that we can create that as well. And that is how I've created this background here. You can see that in the background. Now what I've also done, I've stamped straight on top of this with the black ink. So once this has dried, this was created in exactly the same way. I've used a foam spreader or the foam pad here to stencil through that, the same stencil actually, and then I've just used a black ink pad just to stamp on top of that. So there's, you know, it's completely usable. So it is absolutely mixed media like. You can see these elements here have actually been die cut from a piece of cardstock made in this exact way as well. So if you want to make your own backgrounds, but say you struggle a lot using blend-in sponges and ink pads, this is a lot easier way of doing it. You get lovely results. This is dry straight away. I mean, you saw just how it was just like a minute ago that I created this, and this is dry enough to die cut now and to work with. I'd be able to stamp onto this as well. So it's a really nice way to create backgrounds, and imagine all the fun you could have if you got even just one set of Reinkers. They come in sets of 12 or 10 depending on the release. You can have a colour for every single one of them. You know, you've got hours and hours of fun there as well. So there is so much you can do with the Reinkers, and say these are my favourite ways of using them. There are lots of different ways to use the Reinkers. These, I find these techniques are a lot more manageable for me, even though I've got myself in a right on mess with these ones. I've got myself in less of a mess than I would have done with other techniques, but there are lots of different finishes. I like the finishes on these techniques because they're controllable and they are subtle, which again suits my way of crafting. If you've been with Lisa and watched my lives for a while, you know that I prefer the more subtle ways of crafting and more subtle colours. So using the Reinkers in these ways has actually given me the confidence to use them in, you know, slightly different ways. You can see all the different looks that we've got here. Now this one has been sitting in the sun on the windowsill. That has dried, so that would be ready to stencil onto or stamp onto now. Again, another mixed media type of project that you can have, but still very subtle, I would say. And you've got these pieces here. This is the wooden piece that I stamped onto, and if you wondered, that is perfectly dry, so that'd be perfect to sit onto a card now. If you wanted to use that as a coaster, you could actually put some varnish over the top of that as well, I reckon, to protect that, or you can put that onto the front of a card. If you were to use a longer piece, you could be a bookmark and put a tag through the top. And then you also have this piece here again, which is the MDF, very similar to this, but you know, just a slightly different finish. Hope that's given you some ideas on how to use the Reinkers. As I say, they are half price at the moment, so if you are thinking of getting them, now is a really good time to do that. I hope you've enjoyed the different techniques. What I'll do, I'll spend some time to actually get these, some of these made up into projects so you can see them as final cards as well, and I shall post those into the group. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Thanks so much for staying with me. I've probably run over time just a little bit, but there's so much I could have done. What's this? Oh, hi Fiona, you love Reinkers as well, do you actually use them, Fiona, as a different, I'm sure you've got lots of different techniques that I didn't cover. You went off piste. That's quite all right. It's nice just to have a bit of have a few people to chat to when I'm crafting, actually, to be fair. So it's lovely to have you all here. I'll read through your comments a little bit later on, I think, actually. They're making me laugh there. Oh, hi Jason, how are you? Opal Blush is your favourite. I love Opal Blush. That is such a stunning colour to use as well, isn't it? Anyway, I shall read through these a little bit later on because I don't want to keep you any longer than I already have done today. But thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. Something a little bit different from me today. I shall catch up with you all on Friday evening on Lisa's Live, and I shall see you all next week. So thanks so much, everyone. Take care.